Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our final council meeting for 2025. I'd like to begin by paying our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and throughout our region, the Gidabal, Camberwell, Ugarapul and Bigambul peoples, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging for their continuing care for our country. Today we have Pastor Jeremy Greening from Vineyard Church. I hope your vocal cords are still fine after the carols on Friday night, Jeremy, to lead a prayer for us today.
Well, good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors, team and community that are in person or tuning in online. I'd like to thank you all again for the opportunity we have to come and share with you at the start of the meetings. We certainly appreciate the opportunity. And on behalf of our Christian Ministers Association in Sladevale, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and compliments of the season. The Bible in 1 Timothy chapter 2 verses 1 and 2 is very clear. It just says, "Therefore I exhort first of all that supplications, prayers, intercessions and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence." So as we come to the end of a year, and Madam Mayor said this is our last meeting for the year, I want to pause and acknowledge the responsibility you all carry as leaders in our community. Local leadership is not easy. It's often unseen, highly scrutinised, sometimes even thankless. In fact, maybe I could say most times. Yet the decisions that you make quietly shape the lives, safety and well-being of the members of our community. So over the past few days, I'm sure we're all aware, we've been deeply affected by the tragic events at Bondi Beach. Moments like these remind us how precious life really is and how fragile peace can be and how important it is that communities stand together against hatred and violence. Today, our thoughts, and for many of us, our prayers, are with our Jewish brothers and sisters who are grieving, hurting and shaken by what's occurred. We stand with them in solidarity, compassion, and hope we all condemn those acts of terror that would rise up in our nation of Australia. See, Christmas at its very heart is a season that calls us back to shared values. Whether you're a person of faith or not, I'm sure we would agree those shared values of peace, goodwill, compassion, and service to others are things that we hold dear. So regardless of your personal beliefs, these values bind our communities together, especially in times of uncertainty. So today, I simply want to say thank you. Thank you for serving, for showing up, for carrying the weight that you carry, that weight of leadership. Your care and your work matters, and it makes a real difference. So as we move towards Christmas, my hope for you is for rest, renewal, and perspective, and a renewed sense that what you do truly counts. So thank you for your service. And thank you for allowing me to share this moment with you today. And with that said, I'm going to lead us in prayer. God, we thank you for this day, for the opportunity to gather together. We thank you for each person here and for their commitment to serving this community. We especially pause to acknowledge the pain and grief felt in our nation following tragic events of recent days. We ask for comfort for those who mourn, peace for those who feel shaken, and unity in the face of hatred and violence. We pray for ongoing wisdom, clarity and respect as today's meeting unfolds, and may decisions be guided by insight, conversations marked by integrity, and outcomes shaped by care for people. So as we approach the Christmas season, we ask for peace, strength and renewal for our councillors, staff, teams and their families. And we commit this meeting, this council and our community into your care. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Merry Christmas to you all, and I wish you all the best for a great day.
Thank you, Pastor Jeremy, and the best wishes to you and your flock for the Christmas season.
Thank you, sir.
Councillors, I will now, I would like to lead condolences for the families affected by the incident at Bondi. There really are no words appropriate at times like these, and as many of us have no words to adequately express our condolences at the pain and suffering of the victims, injured and their families, we often do other things. We leave flowers and we join queues hours long to give blood. There were two evil people on Sunday, But there have been good people in their tens of thousands donating blood and in their millions sending messages of support from around the country. These numbers are important because it is the good people, overwhelmingly the majority in our nation, who make Australia what we wish it to be. A country that is respectful of differences, that believes in community, and that is welcoming. These are our shared Australian values, reflected in the words of our national anthem. Just like the community at Bondi, over the weekend across the Southern Downs, our communities came together to celebrate Christmas and the community spirit. We did that without fear of violence. All communities across Australia should equally be able to celebrate their important events without fear. As we spend time with family and friends over the festive season, we should keep in our hearts those families who can no longer do that. We should remember the impacts this will have on them, all of those who were present, the first responders and the community heroes who proved their courage and bravery on Sunday. Councillors, I would like to ask us all to observe a minute's silence, and then I will open the floor for other condolences as well. Thank you, councillors. Deputy Mayor, would you like to do any condolences?
Yes, please. Yes, and I support all of your comments that you have made. I think what happened on the weekend in Bondi has created an overwhelming sadness within us and a lot of pain for the victims' families. That will be with them forever. And I don't think that we will ever forget either, because it brings back memories immediately of the Link Cafe incident and Port Arthur incident and other incidents throughout the world as well, where people have been injured or killed by terrorists. So, and I just would really like to say that we need to overcome the hate. It is the hate that people have that creates these issues. And whether that be for a culture or a political person, and there's a lot of that out there at the moment. I wish people would just stop the hate, because we can never overcome if we don't come together for the good reasons and not that hate-filled thing. I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge another incident that happened on the weekend where an overseas tourist deliberately ploughed into 8 people at the Sunshine Coast on Saturday evening, where one young woman, 24-year-old from New South Wales, has been killed from that incident. So she flew to the sunny coast to visit family for Christmas, and she's no longer with them now. So that incident has gone a little bit low-key, I guess, because of what happened in Bondi, but I was at the Sunshine Coast on the weekend when that happened, and so that's within me as well, and I feel very, very sad for her family, and I'd like to acknowledge that one as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll open the floor for any other councillors who have condolences today. Councillor Richters?
Today we acknowledge the loss of life caused by the attack in Bondi. What has occurred is deeply distressing, and many people across Southern Downs are feeling shock, sadness and concern for those directly affected. We extend our deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of those who were killed. Their loss is immeasurable. We also hold in our thoughts those who remain in hospital, and we pray that their recovery and for the strength of their families waiting by their sides. I want to recognise the members of the public who acted to protect others in circumstances most of us never expect to face, and to thank the first responders who worked under immense pressure to save lives. Their actions made a real difference in the midst of chaos. Based on the information currently available to authorities, this attack was an act of terrorism intended to cause fear and division. It is important to state clearly that responsibility for this violence lies solely with those who carried it out. It must not be attributed to any faith or community. While a Jewish gathering was targeted, those who were harmed were Australians. This is a time to be deliberate in how we respond. People of Jewish and Muslim faiths and others across our community are experiencing fear and distress as a result of this attack. They deserve reassurance, support and care, not suspicion or blame. Everyone belongs in our community. We must not allow this tragedy to be used to divide Australians or to set one group against another. For more than a century, soldiers, sailors, airmen and women have served our nation, many paying the ultimate sacrifice, drawn from every faith and culture, including Jewish and Muslim Australians. Just like those at Bondi, regardless of where their story began, they are all Australians. Racism and hatred stand in direct opposition to the principles our country is built on. Those who hold racist or hateful views are not honouring the sacrifice made by our servicemen and women, nor the lives lost at Bondi 4 days ago. These events have reminded me of something I learnt as a child at Sunday school from the New Testament's teaching on the marks of a true Christian. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Anyone else this morning? No, thank you, councillors. We'll move on to the reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, 19 November 2025 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Pidgeon, thank you. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. We have a recommendation that council receive the report in regards to the council meeting 19 November 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Deane, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Haslett, thank you. Any questions or comments on that one, councillors? No, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to declarations of conflict of interest. Can I have just the item numbers, please, for any councillors declaring? Councillor McDonald?
Mayor, 17.1, para 25 and 15.5.
Okay. Councillor Pidgeon?
15.3, 15.5 and 17.1.
Thank you. No one else? Okay. Councillor McDonald, do you want to start?
Thanks, Mayor. In regards to 15.5, I am a neighbouring property of a feedlot, and also the section which talks about subdivision by a road will impact my property in particular. So for that, I have chosen to leave the room. For 17.1, para 25, the entity involved here is an employer of our company, Rogers Creek Transport, and so I will leave the room due to a prescribed conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. And Councillor Pidgeon?
15.3, the material change of use for Satake Australia, being a neighbour to the property and also a person that uses that quite regularly as a business venture. I will leave the room for that decision, please. And for 15.5 and 17.1, due to my husband having a submission in the planning scheme, I will be leaving the room on both. Thank you. As a prescribed conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Pidgeon. We're right with that, Marianne? Okay, thank you.
May I just like to note for the meeting that whilst I'm not declaring a conflict of interest in 14.2, if that item enters into debate and discussion, then I will at that point declare a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Okay, moving on to the mayoral minute. Councillors, as... Oh,
Sorry,
yes.
Mayor, I was a bit slow on the uptake on that one. 14.2, I will be entering into discussion, just so you're aware, Councillor Richters.
What's that one?
The
Traffic
Myall
Avenue.
Would you like to
Yeah, so I'll declare that I have a declarable conflict of interest in the matter. I don't believe that I'm going to be impacted by impartiality on this, and I'm happy to stay in the room, but if my colleagues don't believe that's the case, also.
So you would like to stay in the room and vote?
Yeah.
Just what's the conflict? Sorry.
Councillor Richter's.
I live on Myall.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right, so do we have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Deane, thank you. All those in favour of?
Can I ask one quick question? We probably need to clarify. Were you a signatory on the petition?
No, I didn't know anything about it.
Thank you.
All those in favour of Councillor Richter's remaining in the room and participating in the vote? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Yes, moving on to the mayoral minute. As flagged with councillors, I'm going to move here that we include item 14.1 in the order of business. It was included in our papers but was missed from the agenda. And that we change the order of business to discuss item 17.1 after item 15.4. Just wait for that to come up on the screen. And as discussed, as flagged with councillors, the staff had item 17.1 before 15.5 because in order of business that resolution needs to be made before we can move on to 15.5, but the automatic system doesn't account for that and moved it into confidential. So. After 14.1, Marion. 14.1 be included in the order of business. Add the after change the order of business to discuss 17.1 after item 15.4. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, 14.1 is in my agenda. Is there an updated agenda?
There's an updated one. The one that was posted publicly on Friday didn't have it in there,
Okay.
but then
Just rerun all your business.
yeah. So just to be clear. Absolutely. Okay. Are there any questions on that, councillors, before we take that to the vote? No. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. We have no notice of motion. Moving on to item 9.1. We have a recommendation that the report of the Chief Executive Officer in relation to correspondence be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor McDonald, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Bartlett. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Councillor
Mayor,
McDonald.
may I talk to number 5, letter 5, and also letter 7. In regards to the 9 traineeships, it's fantastic. It's a great initiative to see these positions being dispersed also to the regional areas as well. So I certainly congratulate the Minister for that, and I think that will only be a benefit to our region. In regards to the letter number 7, which is the Minister for Defence Personnel and Minister of Veterans Affairs, perhaps with the Wallangarra dugouts, perhaps we could look as a council of putting a letter forth of support to the President of Queensland RSL, given that they've had difficulty with finding organisations that are receptive. It may be worthy of approaching the RSL from a council point of view.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald, for that suggestion. Yes, we'll look into that, and if they haven't already approached them, I think that's a good idea.
Thanks, ma'am.
Any other comments on that item, councillors? No? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item number 10, we have a recommendation that council receive the petition and note the matter has been referred to the General Manager, Infrastructure, Assets and Projects for investigation and a report to council. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richards, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor McDonald. Do you want to speak to that?
Mayor, look, first of all, I'd just like to acknowledge a comment that Councillor Watley made to me the other day. I didn't realise that this petition had been initially sent only to myself. I thought it actually had been sent to all of us and that I was just getting my copy of it, so apologies for the confusion about that. I think it's a great initiative. I think we should definitely look at supporting the community's desire to have an off-leash park in Allora, as I also believe that every community should deserve to have something like that if that's something that they want. I would just like to note though for the meeting that the petition itself is actually incomplete in accordance with our rules, but I don't think that should distract from the fact that the sentiment of the community has been demonstrated, and that I fully support the idea of this being further investigated by our staff.
Thank you, Councillor Richards.
Can I
Councillor
just
Watley?
ask one question there? So because it's not because it's incomplete, where do we go from there?
As I read our standing orders, Councillor Watling, and I'll defer to the CEO on this, but as the chair, it is open for council. We have the power to accept any petition that we want to. So any petition that's deficient could still be received and accepted by us. The standing orders are when a petition must be included in the agenda, i.e. the staff don't have the ability not to include it. But if it's deficient, in my view, council does have the power to resolve to receive the petition, but I'll just confirm whether the CEO has anything further on that.
Yeah, I'm speaking in yeah, it's just yeah, I'm glad I noticed it back in probably I support this, don't get me wrong, but in August we knocked back a petition that had over 900 signatures with a similar it had a similar, it just didn't have any postcodes on it and didn't have the name of the submitter on the top of each page. So it was that's for the Flying Fox. We knocked that one back.
No, we received that petition.
No, the first time we didn't. It had to be sent back. It was,
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
I'm just, because those people would probably be watching this and thinking, why was theirs not back and this one has been accepted?
Yeah, I think there are, I certainly see, yeah.
Through you, Mayor, if I may, it's because in that instance we actually had the time to talk to the community about having that particular document rectified. In this instance, this petition came in so late we didn't have time to ask the community to rectify it.
In the time being?
The time between when the petition came into council versus when the agenda had been produced.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's just that I just looked up petitions. Don't get me wrong again, I support this, but there's a few clauses in here that, so it's fine to adopt this.
Yes, under our standing, council has the power to accept any document, so yes. Councillor, so that's Councillor Watling, but you were speaking for Councillor Watling?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there anyone speaking against this motion?
I just have a question.
Are you happy, was your question or speaking, Councillor McDonald?
Speaking.
Speaking, yeah. Your question?
I'm just asking, is it possible to put a time frame on this as to when that report would come back to council? Take it on notice?
It is possible, but if I can take that on notice with the time.
Yeah, that would be good, thank you.
Okay. Councillor McDonald?
Through you, Mayor. Allora's population in the last census was 1,205 people. Given that we've got 112 signatures, you're looking at about 10% of the actual population within that area. So I think it's a significant petition and certainly a significant sample of the population within that region, and certainly should be considered very seriously by the members of the council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Does anyone else want?
Could we ask the CEO to provide advice to us about what we might do to rectify this for the future?
Yes, are any steps being taken to give the public an indication of how to make a properly made submission?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, yes, there is. We're chatting to our governance team at the moment to actually have a template and some guidelines updated on Council's website.
Thank you. I think that will certainly help if there's a place people can go and see how to make a submission, a petition to council. Okay, going to a vote on that. All in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to portfolio reports. We have our first portfolio report, a recommendation that Council's Productive Communities Portfolio Report be received. Are you happy to move that, Councillor Pidgeon? Thank you. And a seconder for Councillor Pidgeon. Councillor McDonald, thank you. Do you want to speak to that report, Councillor?
Thank you. I will take it as read, but I have been involved in the biofuels feedstock expansion study. It was an extremely informative piece of work that that we have been working on. It looks at the renewable sources that could be related to agriculture, and lots of different levels come together to look at how this supportive growth and economic diversion can help within our community and broadly Queensland. So it was a very interesting piece of work, and it's a very exciting space for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Pidgeon. Does any other councillor want to speak to that? In that case, I'd just say, as well as agriculture, I actually think it's a really important piece for our transport companies who are based in the region, who are saying that is where they are looking to move as well with their fleets. It supports both our transport industry as well as our agricultural industry. So I think council being a stakeholder in the state government's study is really good for this region. So thank you, Councillor McDonald. All in favour of receiving that report? Unanimous, thank you. And we have a second portfolio report from Councillor Deane and a recommendation that Council's Healthy Communities Portfolio Report be received. Are you happy to move that, Councillor Deane? Yes, and a seconder? Councillor Windle, thank you. Councillor Deane, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure, absolutely. I will take this report as read, and just like to highlight the garage sale trail. I think it's a fantastic initiative and an easy and fun way to keep our waste out of landfill by giving items a second lease on life. And the Disability Awareness Week, I think, was a fantastic week to celebrate our disabled community, and I was fortunate enough to attend one of their events, and it was just great to see them come alive and be amongst the community, as we all are. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deane. Does anyone else want to speak to that? I will again, actually. I think that Disability Awareness Month and leadership around disability is really important in our community, particularly in Stanthorpe there is a very strong business providing support to people with disabilities, and people actually move to our region because of the quality of those services and that business. It is an attractor for our region, and so I think, yes, our engagement in that space supports not just our residents with disabilities, but also all of the support services that go around that, and the attraction of young families to the region. I also wanted to speak about the 16 days of activism. Councillor Deane and I and Councillor Huslett were in attendance at the Zonta Walk, and it was a great event, but people often say, is there a role for local government in terms of DFE awareness? And I think Councillor Deane and I joined a webinar yesterday run by LGAQ looking at the service gap in that space. And what was really obvious to me is that on the latest figures that they have, which are 10 years old, domestic and family violence cost the Queensland economy $3.2 billion a year. those figures would no doubt be much higher today. And I think when we as local government sit here and fight for more money from the federal government and more money from the state government, taking leadership on DFE ultimately, in the end, might return more money to work on other projects for the community instead of spending a lot of money policing an issue that we all want to stamp out of our communities. And I think that's why it's important that local government do take a civic leadership role in this. Okay, going to a vote on accepting that report. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.1, we have a recommendation that Council note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Windle. Are there any questions on that one, councillors? No? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.2. We have a recommendation that Council, in accordance with Section 33 of the Disaster Management Act 2003 and Section 9 of the Disaster Management Regulation 2014, appoint the following persons to the Southern Downs Local Disaster Management Group: Queensland Police Service Jamie Deacon, Officer in Charge, Warwick Police Station; SDRC Councillor, Councillor Carla Pidgeon; Queensland Ambulance Service, Michaela Abraham, Officer in Charge, Warwick; Queensland Fire Department, Gavin Blissner, Area Commander, Acting Inspector, Warwick Command; Queensland Health, Alison Evans, Director of Nursing, Warwick Hospital; State Emergency Services, Matt Sondergeld, Southern Downs SES Local Controller; and Local Disaster Coordinator, Michael Bell, Manager, Community Resilience. I'm going to move this motion as the LDMG Chair, and Councillor Richter's as Deputy. Are you happy to second that for me? Thank you. Okay.
I do have an amendment, Madam Mayor, it's just really small. After the word persons in the first sentence,
Yep.
I believe we should add in there as members. Because that's the language that's used in the Act and the regulation.
Okay, so an amendment
I was just going to say, do you want an amendment?
Yeah, an amendment motion to add as members, that was moved by Councillor Richters. I'm happy to second that as LDMG Chair. All in favour of that amendment? That's unanimous. Okay, so now going back to the motion, I would just like to say at this point, while we make sure that the governance is right around our LDMG and that we have the appointments properly done, I would actually encourage more councillors next year to do the training necessary for both LDMG and for the local recovery group. We are looking at the moment of having 3 councillors on LDMG. We of course have the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Wantling on the local recovery group. But when we go to stand up for both of those groups, the 24/7 coverage means that the more councillors we have available, the better. And I've certainly encouraged the members of the LDMG to have as many deputies as they need to ensure coverage, which is normally more than one for those members as well. So I think I would just like to encourage those around the table who haven't yet done the training to think about that for 2026 to ensure that we've always got sufficient councillors who can stand up and go on to both of those groups in a disaster.
I would just like to take the opportunity to support what you've just said there, because I think I did suggest that at the start of this term that I encouraged councillors to become involved, because we don't know what sort of events we're going to be dealing with or where they're going to be located. So some of us may not be able to get to a particular location to support, and it could be the other way around. So the more people that we've got with the knowledge to deal with this and to support it, the better. And it's a great organisation, it's a great opportunity to support the region, so I definitely would. And the other thing is just a technicality that there's a spelling error for Matt Sondergeld. If that's going to be an official thing, it's Sondergeld.
Is anyone speaking against the motion? No? Anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor McDonald?
Thanks, Mayor. The LGMG has a critical role to play in our community as demonstrated over the last few months, and also the fact that Queensland has the highest number of natural disasters in Australia, in particular any given storm season or fire season. So may I congratulate those nominated into these positions and those that are already in those positions. They have been doing a fantastic job. Members, for example, like Jamie Deacon, are continuing in their capacity and have been doing a wonderful job to support our community. So I thank everyone that's certainly volunteered and been put into those positions.
Councillor Pidgeon.
I just would like to say that the training has been invaluable, and understanding the process that needs to happen within a disaster. So I hope that we don't have to deal with a disaster, but let's be real in this situation, and one day it will happen. So to be trained and to be ready is, I find extremely helpful.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? I might use my right of reply because I remember now that you've spoken, Councillor McDonald, that you weren't with us at the September meeting and I didn't have the opportunity to actually thank you in person for your service on the LDMG during that tenure. You were away when we spoke to that, but I would like to use my right of reply here, actually just to use it to thank you for your role on LDMG, and I'm sure we will see you back in either recovery or disaster at some point during the term. So going to the vote on that, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.3. We have a recommendation that council vote for or against the motion from LGAQ as follows: that the LGAQ maintains its members' current policy position held since 2012 that councillors should not automatically stop being a councillor in the event that they nominate and campaign for election to the Queensland Parliament. Councillors, before we move this, I might just say that I think what we will do here is, if I can get someone to move and second the motion as is, we will speak either for or against the LGAQ motion, and then based on the discussion around the room, we can do an amendment to choose one of those two options at the end of the discussion. So I'll just ask someone to move that motion. Councillor McDonald, and a seconder, Councillor Haslett, thank you. Okay, so Councillor McDonald, are you speaking for or against the LGAQ motion?
I'm speaking for, Mayor.
For, but to keep it as it is currently?
Yes.
Okay. If you start.
Mayor, in relation to this, I think it's very important to look at the impact. If a councillor was to be forced to stand down, then it triggers what, if it is within the second year, third of our term, what is known as a by-election. And if that was the case, then there's a huge impost in regards to the ratepayer. So I think the significant impost is certainly worthy of looking at, because obviously state and federal elections do occur and people do have the right to stand in them. However, if we make somebody immediately stand down, then we are forcing ourselves into the position of an election or a by-election, and the potential for that is obviously expenditure of funds or ratepayer funds that I don't believe need to be expended, because you don't know that that person is necessarily going to be voted in. So I would like to see the status quo remain.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Okay, do I have someone speaking against the LGAQ motion? Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't have particularly strong feelings, and I do take your point. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that state elections now happen in line with the timing of local government elections, in that they're every 4 years, so they will always occur in the same year that our local government election anyway. So that trigger, I don't believe is an issue any longer, that they'll always happen at the end of the year that our elections occur. The reason I am advocating against the motion by LGAQ is that I do believe our community elects us as local government councillors on the understanding that this is going to be our priority as running and being part of the local government. And if a person on the local council then is going to choose to go for state, it's a different level of government, it's a different job, it's a different role, and it does take their focus away from this job as local government. And I personally think that we should have made that decision as elected officials before we want to essentially hedge our bets, for want of a better way to put it, to see which way we go. So for that reason, I will vote against it, but as I say, I don't feel that strongly either way, to be honest.
Thank you, Councillor Hyslop. Do we have someone who feels either strongly or weakly for the motion? Councillor Richters.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think that this change proposed by the state government is inconsistent with the High Court's rulings in principle, that if a councillor wanted to run for a federal election, they wouldn't be required to resign, but somehow we have to resign if we want to run for a state election. Whilst the two things are separate under separate constitutions, it is not consistent with each other, and at the moment we have consistency. This introduces inconsistency. And I take the point that Councillor Hyslop just made about the council elections and state government elections being in the same year, but the biggest impact of this will be by-elections. And there's many by-elections, as we've just seen in Townsville, and I think that this just introduces additional complexity that doesn't need to be there. For generations, people have served in local, state or federal government and moved between those levels. Many people I know who have been federal senators are now state MPs. Many people who have been local government councillors have become state MPs, and many people who have been local government councillors are now become the premier of our state. So I think that to put this arbitrary restriction in there is unnecessary. I would also like to note that this will have a monitoring impact on not only our council but councils around Queensland. Unnecessarily hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent on by-elections that may be completely unnecessary. Rightfully, the rules stand that if you get elected, you can't hold two offices. That is totally fair. But forcing one person out of an office in order to seek another office is causing disruption that's not necessary.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Does anyone else want to speak against the LGAQ motion? Okay, I will speak against. As Councillor Hyslop indicated, we now have 4-year terms for both local and state governments in Queensland, with local council elections in March and state in October, 7 months later. I looked at this firstly as a voter, and if I knew that a candidate for a local election in March was going to spend the next 7 months campaigning, they wouldn't get my vote. And I then thought about it as a mayor, trying to get a group of councillors after an election settled in, trained and working together as a group is an enormous challenge. And sometimes, despite best efforts and intentions, it doesn't happen. There are some councillors who don't see benefits of pushing together in the same direction to deliver more for the community. But that job would be made even harder if one of the group's main focus and attention was elsewhere. To me personally, the adage that there is no politics in local government is sage advice on how to best manage local government for the benefit of a region as a whole. And I think once a councillor put their hand up for state elections, it would invariably create politics at the state level with the competition between candidates. That is rarely going to be good for a council. I've had the opportunity since Friday to discuss this with many residents, and I haven't yet found someone who is supportive of someone they voted for turning around and putting their hand up for state elections. For all of those reasons, I think that as we head towards an election year, it is the right moment for councillors to decide which election they will run in. I don't support the notion of having a bet each way and running for local and then turning around and running for state. I think it's a disservice to the community to receive a council allowance unless you are 100% committed to the role and willing to serve a 4-year term. And for that reason, I'll be voting against the motion. Does anyone else want to
I have a question for Councillor Bartley, who's been in this council for the longest period of time. How many councillors do you know of who have put their hand up to run for another level of government?
None while I've been serving, Councillor Rectus, not in this one. Only one in Toowoomba occurred that caused a little bit of interest, but he was unsuccessful in being elected, so continued on as a councillor.
So what about
But not
Councillor
in-
McNally and Councillor?
That was for pre-selection, not for.
That was only plebiscite, that's all that was.
I think you need to look at the wording of this motion.
Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Okay, so we're going to have to, we haven't heard all the voices, so an amendment motion's going to be challenging, but Councillor McDonald, you moved the original motion, so do you want to move an amendment motion to 4 and we'll vote on that, and then depending on that how that goes.
I didn't ask to amend.
Pardon?
I didn't ask to amend.
We have to choose for or against.
Oh, well, 4.
Yes, so you move an amendment motion to remove or against. So if you're voting for, it means that you support the LGAQ position that you can nominate and campaign for state election while you are a councillor. Are you
Yep, do we have a second?
a seconder, Councillor Richters? Okay. So going to a vote on that amendment. Those in favour? Councillors Wantling, Bartley, McDonald and Richters, and those against, Councillors Pidgeon, Haslett, Deane, Windle and Hamilton. So I will move an amendment motion that we delete 4 or. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Windle, thank you. Wait for me.
Sorry, who was that again? So the mayor.
I moved and Councillor Windle seconded.
And 5 against.
No, Councillor
Mayor.
McDonald's was 4. Oh, I see,
Yeah,
yes,
so
okay,
she's-
she's 4, yeah, and this
and
one's
this
against
is,
M and H.
Mayor.
Okay, so going to a vote on that amendment motion, those in favour? Pidgeon, Haslett, Deane, Windle and Hamilton, those against? Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. And then we go back to the original motion as amended, that council vote against the motion from LGAQ.
Can I check the movers and
Yes.
seconders for that?
So the original was, McDonald and Haslett. Are you happy still being the mover for that, Councillor McDonald?
Oh, yes.
And Councillor Haslett? Yep. Okay, those in favour? Councillors Pidgeon, Haslett, Deane, Windle and Hamilton, and those against? Councillors Richters, Wantling, Bartley and McDonald. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 13.1, Corporate Services Report. We have a recommendation that council receive and note the financial performance report as at 30 November 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Pidgeon, thank you. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Haslett?
A question, probably first if I may, Mayor. Just looking at the ratios in there, they look exceptional. Congratulations to the team on them. Is there a reason why they're so good? Is it a timing thing, or are we just that good? Is there an explanation as to why those figures in the ratios are so high? This particular set of numbers?
Through you, Mayor, can I please defer to the General Manager of Corporate Services, please?
Sunshine and rainbows.
Through you, Mayor, yes, we are very, very good.
Fair enough, right? Okay, yep.
Some of the challenges with the ratios on a year-to-date basis can be a little bit misleading, and sometimes they look good and sometimes they don't. So it's better to look at them over a 12-month period. But we're really confident about where we're at and what we're doing financially. So yeah, we're in a good position.
Thank you. Yeah. But we probably shouldn't expect it to
Oh.
stay sitting there in the long term.
That's what we're working towards. We're working towards maintaining ourselves, through you, Mayor, maintaining ourselves at this sort of level. But it is a longer term view. We need to take a longer term view on these things.
Thank you. I would like to speak to it as well, but if there
Yes,
are
we
questions,
can move it.
perhaps.
So, yes, are there other questions before we speak to the motion?
Sorry to be
Councillor
down.
Warren.
When this report was done, we're about 42% of the way through the financial year, and we've spent just 21.3 million. That's only about 30.5 of our 69.8 million capital works budget. If we continue at the same rate,
Sorry, Councillor Watling, was it a question?
It's a question.
Okay.
It's a question. If we continue at this rate, we'll be likely to complete our 73%, around 73% of the capital works program.
Councillor Watling, can you
By
ask the
financial
question
years
and then
end, yeah, I'll
speak?
finish. I'm going to ask the question. Just give me 1 second, please. Okay. With a total spend of about 51.1 million, that would leave close to 18.7 million unspent. If I'm correct, have we put any provisions in place to fix or alleviate this problem?
Through you, Mayor, I'll ask the General Manager of Infrastructure.
Yep, and through you, Matt. Thanks for the question, Councillor. The graph that Councillor's talking about is on page 70. I actually think this is the first time in about 2 years that we've actually had our committed and actuals above our budget line. So it's actually a really good news thing. If you remember the last 2 years, the green line, if I use that sort of parlance, has actually been below the red line. So even though I would always like our actual cost to be higher, there's always a lag between committed and actuals. So for the first time for 2 years, and I think this has been a team effort, not only of our team, but the councillors as well, in terms of actually getting contracts out the door, commitments for actually capital works, and then the actual putting the capital works in the ground. A lot of our capital works are in relation to forward orders, and those have now been placed, and so I'm really happy with the performance. We can always do better. I'd love our committed costs and our actuals to be exactly the same, but there's always a lag between the two. So I think this year is going to be a lot better year than it has been previously, and that's been because the team we've got in place, capital PCG meetings, enormous amount of work in the project management in the background, and then also the ELT and SLT pushing hard on our capital delivery.
So can I just ask one question? So does that mean that our capital works projects, we have a lot on the ground at the moment? Is that what you're saying? So
Yeah, so through you, Mayor, absolutely. There's a lot of work happening on the ground. There's a lot of forward orders for large projects already committed.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Any other questions before we go to speaking to the motion, Councillor Richards?
Notwithstanding my request that I made yesterday about having a breakdown of the material and services, there's about $446,000 that is not part of your breakdown in the agenda. Is there any indication at the moment about roughly what that $446,000 might look like? So we're currently $1.1 million over budget, and then you've talked about where we've gone over by about $600,000 in the breakdown in the expenses section of the report, and there's another $400,000.
Yeah, through the chair, it's year to date. So the challenge we have on reporting at the moment is the organisation takes the annual budget and divides it by 12. That's a capability issue that we're addressing as part of next year's budget process, where the year to date will actually be more accurately cash flowed throughout the year.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Any other questions before we move to speaking? Councillor Deane? Oh, yes. Okay. So does the mover want to start
I would, it's very, very brief, as I've already mentioned or alluded to with my question. I'm really impressed with it here. Looking at that ratios page again though, there's the one that isn't, to me, looking particularly great is the population growth ratio. We're behind our targets, not by much, but behind targets with that. And I just wanted to make note of that because I think that is a really, really relevant point to later discussions that we're going to have on planning schemes and various things like that. So I just wanted to note that observation of that particular line in the ratios.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, if I can just clarify. One of the challenges we have, in particular with population, is that we rely on the census data, which is currently 5 years out of date, I think. So we're expecting that when the next census comes through, that will show us what we're experiencing on the ground, which is a much different shift in growth.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I might add, just generally for councillors in relation to that census, it'll be very important for us as a local government to make sure people actually put the census data in, because a lot of our grants depend on those population numbers. They're calculated on that basis. So the more people we can get to complete their census papers, the better position we have in going for grants and getting more grants. So, okay, so that's Councillor Haslett. Do we have anyone else wanting to speak to the motion? Councillor Deane?
Just wanted to make a general comment about the capital works that I've been seeing around. And I just think it's been incredible to see a huge influx in the last couple of months. It seems like every corner you turn there seems to be a roadwork sign. So, I mean, even though you have to add on a couple, 5 minutes to your journey, it's great to see that so much is getting done in our region.
Thank you, Councillor Deane. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? I will speak then. There were 2 items I wanted to speak to in the report. The first one was in relation to some of the expense overruns which relate to disaster response and repairs. And it's no secret that the cost to local government and communities of natural disasters is increasing, but it is actually increasing faster than our revenue. So our revenue is not keeping track with the additional burdens being placed on local governments. And I don't think that we should be in a position where we have to raise rates to pay for this over the years to come. I think it's really important that we advocate to the federal government to establish a national disaster fund that will ensure communities across Australia can be prepared, and to fund upgrades ahead of future events and pay for the costs of natural disaster response and recovery. At the least, we will continue to push the federal government to increase financial assistance grants back to their 1970s levels, which is 1% of tax, which goes to Canberra coming back locally. And at the moment for Southern Downs, that would be an additional $7 million per year of our residents' money coming back here that we could use, for example, not just on other projects, but on disaster preparation. The other thing I wanted to note was the capital works in progress. I think the comparison to last year, where we were only at 34.3% spent and committed, compared to this year, 57.9% spent and committed, shows the difference with an experienced leadership team who know how to deliver projects. And I'd like to thank you all for your work over the year in getting us to this position. Okay, going to a vote on that. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.2. We have a recommendation that Council, pursuant to section 2362 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, resolve that the exception at section 2361C3 of the regulation applies to the disposal of interest in land at 228 New England Highway, Allora, described as Lot 1 on Survey Plan 302786 and Lot 2 on Crown Plan 889547, because it is for renewal of a lease to an existing lessee, Allora Show Society Inc. Approve a 10-year lease to the Allora Show Society Incorporated over Lot 1 on SP 302786 and Lot 2 on CP 889547 in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012. Grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer or delegated officer to undertake lease negotiations with Allora Show Society Incorporated when the updated survey plans are received from SEC order with regards to Lot 1 SP 302786, and pursuant to Section 2571B of the Local Government Act 2009, Council resolved to delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to take contractual action pursuant to Section 238 of the regulation to implement Council's decision. Councillor Pidgeon, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and do I have a seconder? Councillor
Definitely.
Windle, thank you. Before I throw to you, Councillor Windle, I was going to move an amendment motion, if you're happy for me to do that first up. In item 3, I want to delete all of the words after incorporated. Because I don't want the survey plan from SEC Audit to hold up the lease unless it absolutely needs to. Are you happy to second that, Councillor Pidgeon? Yes, okay. Does anyone have any questions on that? Going to a vote on that amendment motion then, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, Councillor Pidgeon, do you want to speak?
Yes,
to
thank
that
you.
motion?
I would just like to thank the staff for actually getting this lease to this point. I really appreciate the work that has been done in this space. It's very exciting for the Show Society with the group that they have in there at the moment and the plans that they have moving forward. So to be able to have this lease and to be able to access these grants and be putting their name forward in different spaces is very exciting for the community, and I wish them all the best with their endeavours as they move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Pidgeon. Does anyone else want to speak to the motion? Councillor Windle?
Yeah, just to add that the Allora Show Society has a lot of history, and they've always been very successful for a very, very long time. And it's just pleasing to see that there are still people putting up their hand to support the Show Society and take on a role on the committee and be as proactive as they are to ensure the future of the Allora Show Society continues for a very long time ahead. And it's great to see this lease put in place to give them the added security that they can have now to keep on going forward.
Thank you. Okay, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 14.1, Works for Queensland. We have a recommendation that Council submit the following amended list of projects to the Department of Housing, Local Government, Planning and Public Works for assessment and approval from Council's 4.58 million allocation under the 2024-27 Works for Queensland program, and then the list of 10 items that you can see on the screen there. Do I have a mover for that motion? Councillor Deane, and a seconder, Councillor Wantling, thank you. Do you want to speak to that motion, Councillor Deane? Does anyone want to speak for the motion? Councillor Ritters?
I just want to note that whilst I'm supportive of the change that's been proposed here, I still, and I'll support the motion today because of that, I still remain opposed to the footpath in Leslie Park being part of our Works for Work Queensland.
Thank you, Councillor Ritters. Speaking
I
of
have a question.
a question, yep, Councillor McDonald.
Mayor, through you to the CEO, and forgive me, I have been absent obviously for the last couple of months, so I may have missed some of the briefing sessions in regards to this. When it comes to the sale yards, I do spend a fair bit of time at the sale yards in my capacity as a primary producer and speaking amongst community members, both with cattle and also with sheep. Can I possibly find out with the upgrade, the $795,000 to be spent on stages 3 and 4, are we looking at moving in line with the 2001 Animal Care and Protection Act, which is ensuring coverage of, for example, areas such as sheep pens? In particular, they are obviously highly visible areas, and they are animals that suffer very badly with the heat. Are we looking at further coverage of those pens, sheep and cattle?
Through you, Mayor, can I ask the General Manager of Infrastructure?
Yes, and through you, Mayor. Currently under the Work for Queensland funding, that is not included. However, we are looking at other grant opportunities to look at that issue.
May I please just respond and say and stress, obviously, there are new regulations that are coming in, and I'm sure that Councillor Pidgeon is aware of those. that we will need to comply with fairly soon in regards to that coverage. So it is something that we probably need to start considering as a council, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McDonald. Throughout the year, both in 2024 and throughout 2025, I have spoken numerous times to ministers at state and federal level about the need for funding for coverage for the sale yards. It is the estimate for the coverage is about $5 million, which is well outside our Works for Queensland funding capacity. At this point, we are not looking to use ratepayer funds for that. We're hoping to find grant opportunities. But you're right, when push will come to shove, if it's required to do that and we haven't found a grant, we as a council are going to have to decide how to do that. I would say it's good to see that the sale yards have been going very well this year. In the financial reports, they have been turning a small profit, and that certainly supports council investing further into that facility from our own funds.
Sorry, Mayor, just one further question. When you're saying $5 million for the coverage, is that for a hard cover or is that for sales? There must be quite a variance between the two types.
I'll refer that
To the CEO?
CEO, yeah.
Through you, Mayor, that's for a hard cover, so there is alternatives in terms of shade cover, and so we'd obviously like to get a more permanent structure, as the Mayor's articulated. However, if we're not, we'll look at all other opportunities to meet the new regulations that will come in.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Watley?
Through you, Mayor, under the project name Safe City Project CCTV Renewal, is there a definite in which area that'll be done, that project is done? In which area?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, there's a project plan which is run by our IT services that have got the location for all the upgrade of the cameras, and we're happy to bring that back to a CIS meeting to outline the location of those upgrades.
Thank you.
Anyone else, councillors? Okay, going to vote. All in favour? That's everyone except Councillor Bartley, and those against? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Item 14.2, we have a recommendation that council notes the petition received that was properly made requesting traffic calming measures along Myall Avenue between New England Highway and Lock Street. Notes council engineering team have completed an investigation of the request and endorsed that no new or upgraded treatments are required at present as part of the outcome from the investigation. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Haslett, thank you. Okay, would you like to speak to that, Councillor Bartley?
I think, Madam Mayor, if we start treating one avenue, we'd have to look at all the avenues, and I think it's out of our financial reach to start putting measures like this in place. I think just the avenues and the constrained areas and the houses close to the roadway tend to have a calming effect on the traffic. That's a known fact. You might get the odd perpetrator that tends to speed up those avenues. I guess that's a police matter, but in my opinion, most people who observe traffic rules and regulations tend to understand they're in a constrained area and drive slowly.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Is it a question, Councillor McDonald?
I'd like to speak against.
Speaking against, okay, off you go.
I thank the engineering team for the statistics that have been provided, and I think they're significant. They speak for themselves in regards to the speed that people are actually conducting themselves pretty much appropriately and pulling their speeds down for those lanes. However, I do have some major concerns. I concur with Councillor Bartley. We probably do need to look at every one of those avenues. I would ask the question, have we actually spoken to Warwick and District Community Roads Safety Group? I did take the time to speak to the President. There is a wider issue here, and I think as a council we need to address this. I drove up those avenues not only this morning, the last couple of days. Went up Myall Avenue, I went up Wilgar. I do have some frank concerns about Obviously the width of them, they are quite small, generally speaking in a car like mine, which is slightly bigger than the average car. It is quite difficult for two cars. One has to pull over and the next one obviously takes precedence. Further to that, this morning I was playing Dodge and Bins, trying to work out how to get around the bins because obviously it's bin day as well. So that adds obviously to the congestion of those roads once again. So we've got the bins, we've got children that may be coming out. We have people that are self-regulating down to 35 kilometres on an average. So I would suggest, from my point of view, that we should actually be looking across the board at those avenues of dropping the speed down to 40, the same as the school zone, the same as the hospital zone. We have roads like Grafton Street, Percy, they are very, very wide roads and they are 50 kilometres an hour. So it begs the question as to why we have roads that are, or avenues that are half the width and we've left them at 50 kilometres an hour when you're dodging bins and dodging potential pedestrians. I would ask, Mayor, that this item be laid on the table, so a procedural motion to ensure that we actually confer with Warwick District Community Road and Safety Group. In particular, as I said, I've spoken to the President in regards to this. He does have very strong views and concerns.
Thank you. That's a procedural motion to lay the item on the table. We'll go to a vote on that. All in favour? Councillor McDonald. Those against? Everyone except Councillor McDonald. The motion is still on the table. Councillor McDonald has spoken against. Councillor Bartley has spoken for. Do I have another councillor who wants to speak for the motion? Councillor Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what Councillor Bartley has said there, that the report here is quite clear that it doesn't meet the benchmarks that are needed to put those measures in. So to start putting measures in on one avenue would open a can of worms, and we use that phrase quite often, for a lot of other avenues and the associated costs for that. But also, I don't really even know the policing of that. It's not a council matter, I assume it's a police matter. They would need to be consulted. There'd be a lot of other things that would need to be done in there. It's quite clear in this report that the vast majority of people driving along these roads are already doing the right thing. So I would urge all drivers, please, to continue to do the right thing and keep our roads safe with our own common sense.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Does anyone else want to speak against the motion? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Deane.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge your comments, Councillor McDonald, and appreciate your concern. I am going to go off what we were presented in our SIS just recently in November, and also the stats in front of us, and I can appreciate that between Pratton and Lock Street only 2 vehicles in 19 days were exceeding the speed limit. So I believe that it doesn't warrant any, like the staff have mentioned, any restrictions to be implemented. So I am grateful for the time spent on this so that we can come to a conclusion.
Thank you, Councillor Deane. And Councillor Windle.
Yeah, thank you. I can recall when we had to have a lot of discussion about the Oak Avenue laneway, that this was raised there as well. And at that point was when I did suggest then that perhaps all avenues should be 40k. So, but having said that, when I drive down an avenue, you automatically just drive slower than normal. And it's not just avenues in Warwick that we have to contend with. We've got them in Allora as well, and everywhere else around the region there we have these avenues. So it will become a huge cost factor if we have to start implementing things. And it also creates confusion. We have 60k's in a couple of streets in our town in Warwick, and the rest are 50. People are already confused if we bring another speed limit in somewhere else. I think common sense has to prevail and people just have to drive safely. If there's rubbish bins out, you're going to slow down, surely. You're not going to turn it into a curve and a weave and try to keep up a 50k speed limit. You're going to slow down unless you want to damage your car. So I think that common sense has to prevail. If there are incidents where people are noticing somebody that regularly speeds down their avenue, ring the police and take their number plate and let the police deal with it as they should.
Thank you, councillor Wendell. Councillor Richters?
I hear the things that Councillor McDonald was saying. I suppose being somebody who actually navigates this on a daily basis, I believe that the only possible solution to our avenues more broadly would be to do what we've done at Oak Avenue and turn it into a one-way street. But the problem with turning it into a one-way street and forcing the traffic to maybe take a longer journey than what they had intended to take probably actually increases the percentile of the speed traffic going down the road. Being someone who drives up there every day, it's really uncomfortable even doing 40 k's an hour. 30 k's an hour really is all you feel comfortable doing going down those avenues, and even just reducing the speed limit to 40 wouldn't have any practical effect. The few people who are doing over 50 k's an hour are still going to do over 40. So I think that the staff maybe have looked at this from the correct line, and like they haven't come up with any solutions to implement. I think that is the right decision.
Thank you, councillor Richters. I'm also speaking for the motion, but I do think that Councillor McDonald's raised a very good point about the Warwick District Road Safety Group, who do a lot of good work in our region. There is actually nothing in this recommendation that prevents council officers actually going to speak to them after this resolution, because I think their input generally would be really worthwhile. So I think we'd like to ask officers to follow up with them. Even though I'm speaking for the motion, I think we should do that, Councillor McDonald, and that's a good recommendation. Are we happy to go to a vote on that one? All in favour? It's everyone except Councillor McDonald, and those against? Councillor McDonald. Okay. Moving on to item 14.3. We have a recommendation that council approve penalty infringement notices if required to be issued for contraventions of section 193 of the Water Supply Safety and Reliability Act 2008, namely discharging particular substances. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Bartley, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Wantling, thank you. Do you want to speak?
I think
for the motion?
Madam Mayor, it's fairly procedural. Obviously, people aren't doing the right thing, and they probably have been forewarned, I imagine, by our staff. I generally think they give a warning not to do it, but if they continue to offend and cost the ratepayers money, because that's what it's doing, then it's logical we head down this track.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Is anyone speaking against the motion today? Councillor Richters?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move my amendment.
An amendment, okay.
It's on the screen.
Oh, okay.
I'm happy to read it. And so my amendment is that following the existing sentence, we add that and council require that the implementation of penalty infringement notices under this resolution be supported by an education first compliance approach, including the use of warnings where appropriate, with enforcement action focused on deterrence and reserved for serious, repeat or deliberate non-compliance.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Pidgeon. Thank you.
I think that...
Sorry, Councillor Richters, can I just, can I ask a question first before you speak to that, just through to the CEO? Would that be consistent with when we set policy and the procedure is underneath, will this conflict with procedures within the team?
Through you, thank you for the question. This is our current approach. So we already are taking this approach within the organisation.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the clarification, CEO, because that's what I expected would be the case, that this would be our current approach. The purpose of me adding this amendment is to make it clear to the community that that is the approach that we take.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Okay, going to a vote. Does anyone else want to speak on that amendment motion? No. So going for a vote on the amendment motion, those in favour? That's all except Wantling and Bartley. And those against, Wantling and Bartley, so that the amendment is carried. So going back to the original, the amended recommendation, Councillor Bartley and Wantling, are you happy to still be the movers and seconders of that? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Are we happy to go to a vote on that one? Yep. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Councillors, I'm going to move an adjournment motion that the meeting stands adjourned for morning tea. Those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. I just wanted to get, I like that immediately, I went through with that. Thank you. Welcome back, councillors. We reconvene at 10:35 and we're on item 15.1. In our planning items, we have a recommendation that the application for material change of use for the purpose of dual occupancy 2-storey dwelling house and pool house on land at 8 Purdon Court, Sladevale, described as lot 4 on SP 344013, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Deane, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Hustler, thank you. Did you want to speak for the motion, Councillor Deane?
Thank you, Mayor, yes. I just wanted to acknowledge the submitters for their concerns, and I wanted to appreciate that they I acknowledge that. But with the current house shortage, I think it's important that we utilise the space that we can. And this property is 4,000 square metres, so I think it is it has ample space for this type of development. And like the staff have explained in their response, that the design of the house is in keeping with the neighbourhood. So I'm happy with this application.
Thank you, Councillor Deane. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? No. Anyone else want to speak for the motion? Going for a vote on that one, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 15.2, we have a recommendation that the application for reconfiguring a lot for realignment of boundaries, 2 lots into 2 lots, and access easement and material change of use for utility installation, new water reservoir on land at 1 Madsens Road, Yangan, described as lots 1 and 2 RP 167459, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Deane, thank you. Okay, do you want to speak to that one, Councillor Haslett?
I think the report is quite comprehensive and I support the recommendation that's made in it.
Thank you. Does anyone want to speak against that motion? Councillor Bridges?
May I have a question? I'd just like an explanation why it is that we're doing it retrospectively.
Thank you, Councillor Bridges.
Through you, Myall, to ask the gentleman to just respond to that, please.
Through members, through members, so some works were continued and the lots were reconfigured, but a development application hadn't been submitted for the reconfiguration of the lots.
Do you want to speak to or against the motion, Councillor Richters, or just the question?
No, just the question.
Councillor Wallace?
Just a question. Under rural zone P01, can I clarify, do we, Deane, it's got, no development is to proceed with the area defined as the proposed Deane Swamp Dam. Is it just because it's, I'm just asking why that's in there, should that be?
Yeah.
Under the rural zone code, P01.
Page 109.
Yeah.
Through the general manager, please.
Through the Mayor,
Can we take that in notes, please?
I just noticed it's in a few items through.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, can I answer that question or make a comment to the question?
You could make a comment, yes.
Because we discussed this when we talked about the planning scheme update, and its intention in there is not in relation to any particular application. Its intention is that it applies in case someone wanted to develop in an area that was proposed to be Emu Swamp Dam. That's the reason that it's in there.
Yeah, but yes,
It
it's in
doesn't relate
it's
to
in the
this.
general rule zone code, so at the moment the wording is just picked up and put into every
Yeah,
application.
that's what I thought, maybe, yeah.
Yes, but we might hold over your question for discussion on the new scheme as well to see what the position is there. Anyone else want to speak for or against that motion? Councillor Bartley?
I'll speak against the motion, Madam Mayor, given that it was made retrospectively, and I think Councillor Wick just highlighted that, it caused a lot of concern in the community. Even the submitters said works were undertaken before the application was approved, and I think that may have been the case. I won't say for sure, but I said I think it may have been the case. And I think that's not the way we do business. It shows that we're able to change things around to benefit local government sometimes when it suits us. I don't think it has been done the best way possible that we could have done it.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. I might make, if I can, a question through to the General Manager Infrastructure I think this project was started prior to the current General Manager Infrastructure, and I think would that be correct?
Through the Mayor, yes, that was the case. So it actually commenced in around about May 2024.
Right, okay, under the previous General Manager?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so. But we are you're clearly trying to tidy it up.
Yeah, through you, Madam
Since you
Mayor,
took
what we're
over.
trying to do is tidy up probably things that I might have done differently.
Thank you, General Manager. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion?
I suppose I have just the general feeling the same as what Councillor Bartley was expressing. And I'm really hopeful that in the future we don't have retrospective applications that are coming from council, because we know the rules obviously and we should be applying them.
Absolutely agreed, Councillor Riches. But yeah, I think I would hope that tidying up some of those historic issues that we hopefully got most of the way through that. It's good to see them coming up. In fact, because they're obviously it's much better that we acknowledge that it wasn't done properly previously, and that we actually take the steps to make sure that we get everything rectified. So I'm with you that it's not ideal, but I'm very glad to see that the staff feel confident that they can actually correct issues, and that we will work together to make sure that everything is in the order that it should be in.
I'd just like to say that, like you, I commend the existing staff, the new staff, for having the courage to put it up now.
Thank you. Okay, going to a vote on that. All in favour? It's everyone except Councillors Wantling and Bartley, and those against? Councillors Wantling and Bartley. Thank you. Moving on to item 15.3. Councillor Pidgeon is leaving the room. We have a recommendation that the application for material change of use, high impact industry, expansion to silo manufacturing facility on land at Haigs Road, Allora, described as lot 32M34673, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, and a seconder, Councillor Riches. Thank you. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Haslett?
Thank you, Mayor. I thank the submitter in this one. I had a look at those concerns that the submitter had, and I think they are quite valid concerns. And I think this is another one a little bit similar to what we've just discussed in the previous one, where it appears to me to be perhaps a decision that was made a long time in the past that might not have been properly thought through, but it was done. And so we are now in a position where we need to make a decision on something for the best thing going forward from here. And I think that the application and the staff recommendations with the conditions that are involved in this are making the best of that situation. So therefore I do support the recommendations as they've been put there. In particular, to note, one of the big concerns is the movement of traffic and heavy traffic along that road, and that the condition is that that traffic will only come in from that northern side to limit to limit that, and noting, I think also, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but that road will then become one of our roads that we need to look at in terms of the traffic that is on it and what we need to do to keep that as a safe road. I believe that's in the report there as well. So yes, I do support it, given that, you know, we've already got this industry there on that spot, and I think, yeah, we need to make the best of that situation now.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. I will put through via the CEO just that request for clarification on Haigs Road to the General Manager.
So,
I'm sorry.
General Manager Infrastructure, yes, sir.
Yeah, and through you, Mayor, thanks for the question, Councillor. I agree. The traffic now meets our 200 vehicles per day. Currently, if you look at the previous count in 2023, escalated about 5 or 6%, gets to that 200 figure. The traffic count by their consulting engineer Birchall's also puts it as that. And as such, I've actually initiated the design upgrade of that road this year. It's been in the budget, so we anticipated that in the last financial year. The design is about to be packaged up and sent out for consultant bids and will be completed by June so that it could be then incorporated into a future capital program for upgrade.
Thank you. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Bartley?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Not against industrial expansion if it's managed right. And again, this is an industrial operation in a rural area. I was part of the original council that approved it. It was a local family industry and nowhere near as intense as what it is now. If you read the report carefully, there's 72 car parks going to be conditioned. 72 means there'll be a lot of cars. We're conditioning the heavy traffic to use Haigs Road. We can't condition the people that work there to use Haigs Road. They can use any road to access that site. And I anticipate if you're coming from Warwick, the shortcut is through the unsealed section that we're trying to prevent the heavy traffic using. I'll take on board the $35,000 in the budget for the design of the road widening. I think that's what it says in the budget. And I've driven that road recently. I think it's past road widening. It needs a major reconstruction. Absolutely has to be rebuilt. We've got a floodway there which should have a giveaway sign because you can only fit realistically one vehicle across it. That was acceptable in times gone by when there wasn't as much traffic. So I think we're probably allowing this application to go ahead without a suitable access road to it, especially for heavy vehicles, and it's obvious with the intensification of the industry there that there will be more heavy vehicle movements, it's obvious. And we all see, and the condition of the current road is pretty serious actually. It's if anyone's driven it, say, yeah, this needs some work. The other thing is, it is also a school bus run, and there's a major concern to me as well. So I think probably was remiss of the previous decision of a council not to insist on the road being upgraded when the industry was moved there. But because it was low-key, family-owned and a small operation, fitted in with the agricultural intent, as mentioned in the report, it worked okay, but now it's not going to work okay.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Speaking for Councillor Deane, or a
I just had a
question?
question.
Yep.
The current industrial estate in Warwick, does that have any room for people to have new industry at, or is it full? Hang on, I'm just checking this. Okay.
Are you speaking for Councillor or a question?
Yeah, I just got it. I'm not against it. It was, as is Councillor Bartley, I'd just like to speak on my opinion of a few things of it.
So you're speaking for the motion?
Yeah, in a way.
Okay.
Okay. You right?
Yes, because we're going for or against, because otherwise you would just wait for the next person. So, but
Given that this proposal will generate a significantly higher level of traffic, including over 30 additional vehicles plus service and heavy vehicles, on a rural access road used by a school bus and constrained by a single lane culvert, and that council previously resolved to impose a requirement for road infrastructure works on a temporary accommodation approval where occupancy increased from 12 to 16. initially requiring the construction of a 50 metre of a sealed road and subsequently amending that condition to require the construction of a new culvert. I'm confused as to why the road-related conditions recommended for this development are relatively limited and not more comparable in scale given the foreseeable traffic and safety impacts.
Thank you, councillor Watley. Can I refer that through to the general manager, given your question about, there was a question in there about why there wasn't a higher requirement. Oh, the question was why we weren't requiring more roadworks as part of the application.
Yep. Through you, Mayor, and thanks for the question, councillor. I think in retrospect, this road should have been upgraded probably 2 years ago. So what we're doing now is, I don't think it'd be fair to hold up the development of the industry based on that. When I saw the traffic figures, and I've driven this road extensively, and I note Councillor Bartley's comments in relation to the road, that's why it's on our design program, that's why council approved the design monies. I would be much more uncomfortable if we hadn't got ahead of that and not doing the design at the moment. So based on the fact is it's going to be in the design and probably more than likely be put up to council for consideration for capital funding, then I would feel that it wouldn't be appropriate to hold back the development based on the fact is this work probably should have been done a couple of years ago.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald, question or?
No, I'd like to speak for me.
I'll just check if there's an against first. And was that a question, councillor Deane, or speaking? Okay. Is anyone wanting to speak against the motion? No. Okay, councillor McDonald first.
Thank you. Mayor, my thoughts on this are somewhat mixed, but I think one has to look at the overall benefits to the community. I absolutely concur with the vehicle patterns and the increase and the concerns with roads, and that certainly has been addressed by the GM. I think at this point, looking at a pre-existing industry which is in our region, and looking at the growth of our region at the moment, we need to be looking at both growth and economic benefit to the region. So it's the greater good, as you would say within military terms. And it's important. Our region is growing quite fast at the moment, and be that not only in housing but also in commercial developments, and we want to be seen to be being proactive and accepting, these developments, because that's how we'd like to market ourselves, as people that are receptive for growth. I do understand that sometimes that growth does come with restrictions, and sometimes has a level of burden, and hopefully, obviously, we can get on top of that. As we have said, we've had to clean up some concerns from previous administrators that have been within the council, and that's great that we are looking at that proactively and addressing it. So for me, I'm looking at the greater good for the community.
Thank you, councillor McDonald. And councillor Deane.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank councillor Bartley for his extensive knowledge on the local roads and the networks. And I think he has highlighted an important point that we need to look at space for future growth for our industry. And I think it's fantastic to see the local family business expanding and growing their business. So, because of the lack of industrial space, I think sometimes people may not have a choice necessarily, and it's a historical business, and I think it's great to see that our local business is doing well.
I have a question, Madam Mayor, not speaking for again. Given the safety concerns being raised, is it possible to look at a capital budget reallocation, maybe to move that road rehabilitation forward?
We can take that on notice and certainly have a look at that for you, councillor.
Councillor Richards.
Yeah, look, I have similar sentiments to others around the table, but I think it's a good business. I've been out there and seen it firsthand. It's great what they're doing. It's great that they're employing many locals in the process. Haigs Road for me has been an issue that extends well back and almost probably goes back to when the original decision was made. It should have been upgraded at that point in time, not left over until now. It's needed to be upgraded now, regardless of whether they're doing an expansion of their business or not. Industrial area is really tense for Allora. We know that because we're looking at expansions within the existing planning scheme and noting that, you know, we even have limitations in that. We're still going to need to, in the future, beyond even our new draft of the planning scheme, be looking at how we address industrial land in Allora. I think the intent from the business to increase the capacity, I think, is commendable, and I can't wait to see it happen.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. I actually have a very minor amendment motion. It's in relation to, it's to add to the recommendation and Schedule 1 Planning Condition 44 be amended by replacing Director Infrastructure Services with General Manager Infrastructure Assets and Projects, just to correct a mistake that was in the conditions. Are you happy
I just have a question for you on that, Mayor. Is there alternate wording, because obviously this has caused you to raise an amendment that's going to not change into the future. Is there alternate wording that would achieve the intent without even having to name the position?
It's fine to have, if you have the current position in, then if it changes in the future, the interpretation of the condition goes with it. The problem here is that that position doesn't exist, so you can't carry it forward. So yes, I hear what you're saying, but you just need to have the current one. 44. So do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Haslett, thank you. All in favour of the amendment? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, so back on the substantive motion, did anyone else want to speak to that? I think
Just very brief right of reply. I think, yeah, everything that needs to be said around the table has been said. I think it's really timely that we're having discussions and well thought out by everyone in the room discussions about the use of land, the codes on the land, those kinds of things, because we know that we've got some issues in the region generally around this, which bodes really well for future discussions in this meeting around planning scheme. But otherwise, I think that, yeah, it's been covered on this topic.
Thank you. Councillor Haslett, all in favour? That's everyone except Councillor Bartley, and those against? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Can someone let Councillor Haslett know? Councillor Pidgeon know?
Maybe we should have standard wording that just identifies the appropriate member of the executive member of the council.
It could just be the CEO.
Yeah, it could be the CEO and it could be delegated.
Yeah.
Then delegate it down.
It's got a conflict of interest.
Okay, item 15.4, Youth Council. We have a recommendation that Council receive the minutes from the Southern Downs Youth Council meeting held on 23 October 2025. Note the following 2025 Southern Downs Youth Council projects: Youth Creative Arts Development Project, Southern Downs Super Courts, Teen Mental Health and Biosecurity Avengers. Note the request that the projects are further developed by the 2026 Southern Downs Youth Council when appointed. And note that these projects' feasibility and budget implications will be discussed with councillors as part of the 26-27 budget process. Councillor Haslett, would you like to move that motion?
Move it, yes.
And Councillor Deane, seconding, thank you. Do you want to speak to the motion?
I'd like to do a few things, please, Mayor. I'd like to move a procedural motion to table some documents which have been passed around are on everyone's table. These are the actual reports which, if you look on page 145 in our agenda papers, it's the bit in red. It says that these were attachments to the report, but they weren't actually attached. and I think they're important to understand, to be able to make a decision on it, to actually see those attachments, particularly as when this matter was brought up to an information session, not all councillors were present, so they would be unaware of the content of the project proposals, so it's very hard to make a decision when you don't know what they are. So
Procedural
do that
motions
fast.
to table the 4 presentations. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay.
And I would also like to move an amendment, but in order to understand the moving of that amendment, I probably should need to speak to you first. I'm just not sure what's the best order in which to do that.
Speak to it.
Okay, move the amendment for, sorry. I'd like to move an amendment to...
Councillors, just a minute, sorry. Can we please be quiet when a councillor is speaking? Yes,
So I'd like to move an amendment to point 3 in the recommendation. Point 1, 2 and 4 I think are fine, but point 3, Marion, you've got that up there. I'd like to move that this be changed to that all 4 of the project proposals be given due consideration by the relevant council department, noting that staff have been present at and working with the Youth Council students throughout 2025, and that a report be brought to the February OCM such that councillors, we in the room, can assess the feasibility of each project prior to the 26-27 budget process. To explain why I'm proposing that amendment change, when the previous...
just a second, Councillor Husser, we'll just get a seconder.
Oh, sorry, yes, of course.
Councillor Richter's seconding the amendment motion, thank you, okay.
Yep. So previously what was written in item 3 there said that to note the request that the projects are further developed by the 2026 Southern Downs Youth Council when appointed. That I don't believe was the intent of some of the changes that were made to the program in 2025. When you look into this report and the background of the SDYC, it's one of the points in there is for the students to have a better understanding of the role and the function of local government. And a part of what we were attempting to do there was to teach the kids the process of coming up with an idea, figuring out the pros and the cons of that idea, doing a budget, doing a risk assessment, doing all of those things that need to be thought about, and then presenting it, which is sort of the stage that we have now got to. If we were to lock the 2026 Youth Council into the ideas that were created by the 2025 Council, we are not giving the new incoming cohort the opportunity to go through that process. We're kind of defining that process for them, which takes away, I believe, their voice, essentially, their voice as a cohort of the year coming in. So I think that point needs to be brought up. That may be what happens, because the incoming cohort may choose to take on one of these projects as they exist, but I don't think that we should enforce it, so to speak. I would be very happy to have feedback on the wording of my proposal from particularly the other councils who've been involved in this process if it's not clear, but with the intent being that we just still follow through with the projects that we've been presented with, but that we still give the next cohort the opportunity to have their own ideas presented and brought along as well. So with that said,
Can I just ask the CEO, I mean, the last bit around the February OCM doubles up slightly with the budget process in number 4, which isn't specifically one OCM. Would that timing be achievable for staff?
Through you, Mayor, the short answer is no. For that paper to be brought back to the February OCM, staff would need to start working on that in February to get it through the SIS progress in time, which is why the staff has suggested the recommendation around the 2026-27 budget process to ensure that these projects are captured and work is done on them, but it is then discussed as part of the budget process as opposed to the February OCM, but it just won't be ready by then.
So
I think to your point, Councillor, the third bullet point you have there as amendment is certainly absolutely achievable if we could just take out the reference to the February OCM.
I am comfortable with that. I suppose when I hear what you've said, I am not necessarily assuming that it's going to be a full and comprehensive and fully budgeted out report, because I actually believe that when councillors have a look at these projects, there might be some that we go, actually, I don't think it is necessary to put a lot of staff time into that at this stage. What I wouldn't want to see is that the staff go away and do a large body of work on it, for it to then come back and for us to go, well, hang on a minute, that's actually not something that we're probably likely to pursue in the coming year or whatever. Like, I don't want to preempt, it's a hard one, because I don't want to preempt what my colleagues would say about these ideas either way. You might like them or you might not like them.
So are you okay with simply changing that to, and a report be brought to councillors such that they can assess the feasibility without the timing of February?
That's fine, but we need it by a certain time in order to be able to put it in there.
But that's covered by saying, so that it can be assessed as part of the budget discussions. That will put its own timing around it, because those budget discussions have timing.
Yep.
Can I suggest, Mayor, that the wording actually say that the report be presented to a council meeting prior to the adoption of the budget?
It's Councillor Hustlett's amendment motion.
I think it needs to come to us before that, for us to decide whether we even want to have it put in as budget. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't necessarily think everything will end up in the budget. So it needs to come before that to make that first decision.
So just before we, where are we on the wording of the amendment motion? Is it staying as it is at the moment?
Look, I'm comfortable to take out, brought to the February OCM, just and leave the others.
Okay.
The rest of it as it was. But I think we need some kind of wording around that we need, as councillors, need to be able to assess the feasibility of each project in there.
Councillor Windle?
Yeah, I support Councillor Haslett there. I mean, as it stands there now, number 3 needed to be removed completely, because at no time did we ever say that the projects that this year's Youth Council undertook would be handed over to next year's. So I'm not sure why that was put in the first place, but I also agree that 4 councillors, I think, haven't even had a chance to see what these are, so they do need to have an insight as to what these are all about. Unfortunately, they missed out on that opportunity for whatever reason. So without it has to come to us somehow before it goes into the budget process, so that we have an understanding of whether it even goes that far.
Marion, could I see the wording on the amendment?
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me.
So I've just at the moment crossed out.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm fully supportive of us being aware of these and discussing them with staff and getting information. I would personally say that that's probably better dealt with through the budget and briefing process than the OCM process, because to come to an OCM, it has to be in a formal report process, and that requires to do stuff that may not be, as you say, necessary if the discussions around the table are, we don't need a full report on project A. But
I take your point there in terms of what we do as councillors, but going back to my first point that I made about the actual intention of all of this is to teach the young people the process. Now, if we do it that way, they don't see what we do.
And if that's your point, what I'm saying to you is you are then requiring staff to do the full amount of work on all 4 projects to bring it to an OCM. But we could have an open briefing session on it.
That would be a way around that, absolutely.
I just think if the wording's flexible, we can all decide how that happens.
Because
I'm just reluctant to lock it into an OCM if we're not sure that that's the best.
No, I'm comfortable with that, yes, if we could make it an open session that we can invite those students either to be physically present at or to be able to watch, which with students is perhaps more feasible because they're all around the district. But yes, part of the purpose of all of this is for them to see the full process. It's not so much about the end goal, like the end project being achieved. It's for them to be able to see that their voices are important, they matter, they get heard, this is what happens, this is how it goes through the system. And yes, so as long as they would still have access to observing that process, I'm comfortable with that, absolutely, yes. Okay.
Can I just add too that staff have already been involved in this process, so that will make it a little bit easier to have those staff. They've already got some indication or they've got some background already on these projects, so that will make it a bit easier.
We'll go to a vote on that amendment motion.
Just taking that out, or that can come out now?
That can come out, so that the councillor Haslett was happy moving it in that form.
Yes, that's fine.
So, all in favour? That's everyone except councillor Bartley, and those against. Councillor Bartley, okay. And then we're back to the substantive motion. Did you want to speak to that, councillor Haslett?
I think I've said enough.
Okay. Councillor Riches?
Have you put the motion there?
Is that a procedural motion to put the motion? Yes, okay.
Is that, oh, that's,
Is that,
fair.
sorry, what's the second motion?
Sorry,
Just making sure.
So a procedural motion that the motion be put to vote. Do I just put it to vote, or do I do the procedural motion to vote? Yes, okay, so putting the motion to the vote.
No, sorry,
To the vote?
point of order, Mayor, you need to vote on the procedural motion.
No, you don't, not with that one.
Yes, you do.
Item 21.2.
It's a
Item
procedural
21.2.
motion.
Item 21.2 says that a procedural motion that the question be put is moved. Oh yes, you're right, and carried. So the motion be put. All in favour? Councillors Wantling, Bartley and McDonald, those against. Councillors Richters, Deane, Haslett, Pidgeon, Windle and Hamilton. So we're back to the motion so that anyone who did want to speak for or against the motion can do so. Councillor Richters.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I just say, as probably the only person around this table who's ever actually been a youth councillor, I think that this year's youth council have done an outstanding job, and that I'm fully supportive of how we're proceeding forward. I just want to point out though that in my time as a youth councillor, although it was called junior council then, these reports would have already been done at the request of the youth council before we got to even to this point. But I think it's fantastic, and I would just like to commend primarily Councillor Haslett, but also Councillor Windle for how they have conducted this year's youth council. I think it's a fantastic outcome. The results from the survey speak for themselves, and hopefully next year we'll be even better.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Bartley?
Madam Mayor, how can you speak against it when all we're doing is receiving the recommendation is to receive the minutes from the Southern Downs Youth Council meeting held. That's the motion. So how do you speak against it? But one thing I will say, we have spent more time on this matter today than probably any other important matter we've discussed in council. So I supported the procedural motion just to move things along.
Point of order, Councillor.
I find it disrespectful that it appears that our youth council doesn't seem to be important to some councillors sitting around the table. This particular year, this process was put in place to actually show that we have some amazing young people in the region.
Councillor Windle, the point of order is to ask Councillor Bartley to withdraw his comment.
Okay.
I'm not withdrawing the comment, Madam Mayor. I believe we have spent enough time on this matter.
It's very disappointing.
I agree with you, Councillor Windle.
Point of order on that. Mayor, I think that's disrespectful. Quite frankly, I mean, there have been some very, very important.
No, thank you, Councillor McDonald. I took your point of order. I don't think that a comment that something's disappointing is disrespectful. I think we'll move on. Does anyone else want to speak for or against the motion?
Well, I think that's an opinion.
Councillor Deane?
I'll be speaking for the motion, and I just wanted to commend the councillors involved for the innovation that we've seen this year, and I think that the youth going forward will have how to come up with a project, the marketing, everything that is involved with it, and I think it's invaluable for them to going forward within their endeavours. So I commend all involved. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Deane. Would you like to speak to the motion,
No, I
councillor
think I
Windle?
said enough, thanks, me.
Anyone else want to speak for the motion? I'll speak as well and say I agree with councillor Windle that the Youth Council is actually a really important matter. I think it's really great this year that it was taken very seriously by all the councillors involved because it inspires our young people not only to understand council but potentially to become councillors themselves. And I was really impressed whenever I dropped into Youth Council and whenever I participated. I was particularly impressed by the manner in which the young people conducted themselves, the respectful way that they engaged with their projects and had debates amongst themselves. And they were really, I think, quite inspirational in the energy that they brought to their projects. Going to a vote on the recommendations.
Right of reply,
please.
yep. Thank you, Mayor. Ditto to what both the Mayor and Deputy Mayor have said there. I think it's quite disrespectful the way that the Youth Council has been treated by some councillors, not just in this meeting today, but also in not showing up to an information session where they presented to us. That was also very strongly voiced in the feedback from the teachers who've been involved this year. So take from that what you will. And to just add to what the Mayor said there, if we teach our youth about the role of local government, not only might they look to leadership positions such as standing for election as council, but they will have a better understanding of what our officers do. We know that we have shortages of staff, particularly in things like town planning but many areas across council. We cannot build up our future workforce unless we educate them as to what we actually do. And that, for me, is a large part of what we're trying to do with the Youth Council, is to give them a voice, yes, but also teach them what it is that we do. And so I think that they need to be shown the time and the respect by this room for what they have put in this year, for the things that they have done, for the thoughts that they have shared with us. That's enough said, I think. Let's go to a vote.
Madam Mayor.
Have you got a point of order, councillor Maddern?
Yeah, why?
I'd like that withdrawn or clarified, please, as to whom you're saying is disrespectful, particularly to the youth and Youth Council. I am not in any way and never will be disrespectful to our youth or the Youth Council. I have been a youth councillor. I have been absent, and I've been absent for 2 months.
Councillor McDonald.
I work extensively, Madam Mayor, with the youth, with cadets, Navy, otherwise, and certainly believe in our Youth Council and what it can do. It's the fact that we've overspoken, we have time limits in this room, and that's what the point of order was about.
Councillor McDonald, I will clarify that your apologies were passed on to the group when they presented to council because you were ill, and I want to clarify that it absolutely was passed on to the teachers and they understood the reason for your absence. Going to a vote on that, all in...
Can I speak, please? I think you're right. Maybe it might be my turn to defend what I said.
No, councillor Wantling, we had a right of reply. There is no more speaking unless you have a point of order.
Because
do you have a point of order?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a point of order.
Yes.
I noticed everyone's probably speaking negative towards councillors, but you can't know that these are on if you do not get an invitation, and when they've acknowledged they've got an invitation, you start getting them.
So the point of order is?
That I disagree with what Councillor Haslett said. I think it's wrong, and it shouldn't. And I would like her to withdraw the direction she puts on the councillors. It's untrue, and if we can't defend ourselves, well.
I won't withdraw what I just said.
Yeah, I've got the emails to prove it.
Okay, going to a vote on that, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 17.1. We have a recommendation.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. We need to close the meeting before going to
Yes.
17.1?
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I'm doing the moving of the motion to go
Sorry,
into
it sounded like you
confidential
started
session.
reading out the motion of
No.
17.1.
I'm looking for my confidential motion, which for some
I
reason,
think 17 is actually the closing of the meeting. 17.1.
we don't have any. Yeah. Oh, that's where it is. We have a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public and move into committee to discuss the following items, which are considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to the following as indicated. 17.1, this item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3G of the Local Government Regulation 2012, as it contains information relating to negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Deane, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. Moving to a vote on that, all in favour? That's Councillors Haslett, Deane, Wantling, Windle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Bartley and Richters. Okay, thank you. We're back in open session at 11:45 and councillor Watling, did you want to procedural motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Yep, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you.
So they have
Not good, that's not good.
Thank you, councillors. We reconvene at 11:50. And we have a recommendation that council resolve in line with the recommendations outlined in attachment 1 OCM 17 December 2025. Deputy Mayor, will you move that?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Haslett, thank you. Going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's councillors Haslett, Deane, Richter, Swindle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Watling and Bartley. Moving on to item 15.5. We have a recommendation that council receives the draft Southern Downs Planning Scheme consultation report, endorse progressing the revised draft Southern Downs Planning Scheme and a submissions report to the Minister, seeking approval to adopt the revised draft Southern Downs Planning Scheme, endorse progressing the revised local government infrastructure plan to the Minister, seeking approval to adopt the revised local government infrastructure plan within the draft Southern Downs Planning Scheme, decide to make a planning scheme policy to support the draft Southern Downs Planning Scheme in accordance with Chapter 3 of the Minister's Guidelines and Rules. Note responses will be provided to each submitter, and delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to undertake all necessary steps under the Minister's Guidelines and Rules to progress the revised draft Southern Downs Planning Scheme to formal adoption and commencement. Deputy Mayor, are you happy to move that again? Thank you. And a seconder for that? Councillor Deane, thank you. Okay, Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak?
I have a question. In the last line with the delegated authority to the CEO, is that saying that if the state come back to us with items that they don't agree with, they're just going to be accepted as the state have proposed them and we'll go ahead with the commencement of the new draft scheme? Or is there expected to be another vote before the CEO exercises that delegation?
Through you, Mayor, can I defer that to the General Manager, please?
Which is the General Manager, or to me?
Oh, sorry. I had an answer ready to go and then I heard
Through you, Mayor, no, the recommendation is around procedural matters, such as the preparation of the next report. So what we will anticipate is that a letter will come back from the Minister authorising Council to adopt the scheme. There's some process around how we need to do that. So that would be the formulation of a report up to Council recommending the adoption of that final version of the scheme. The procedural aspects could be if the Minister includes some conditions that we would research those and be ready for those matters for you. So.
Okay. Councillor Windle, do you want to speak for the motion?
Thank you. I just firstly want to congratulate the staff for all the work that they have done to get us to this point. It's taken a huge workload by a great team, and I'm excited to see where it progresses to from here, and hopefully it's positive all the way. I'm also want to congratulate and thank those people who put in written submissions to the planning scheme, and for all those people that attended any or all of the consultation events that were held throughout the region. They were very well supported, and the few that I went to, I thought it was great, an opportunity for people to ask any question they wanted and to get reassurance if they were concerned about something. So I thought it was a great initiative that we undertook and well worthwhile. I do have one question with number 5. It just says note responses will be provided to each submitter. I just want to be sure that that's not just a generic response. I would like it to be a little bit personal to the person for that particular submission that they made, so that the response actually revolves around that. Can I ask if that's the case, please?
Yes, yes, through you, Mayor, that is absolutely the case. So we have staff, pending the decision that Council's making up today, we have staff working on that pretty much between now up to the lead up to Christmas, exactly to that point, to make sure that there's some more detailed information in that response.
Thank you, that's good to know.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anyone speaking against the motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment that we include a new item 5 and renumber the remaining items, that 5 becomes commence the rural land strategy immediately upon approval of the planning scheme, with an interim report to Council within 6 months of the investigation commencing.
Thank you. Councillor Richters, have you got the wording for that? Yes, Marion, do you have a seconder for that? Going back to the original motion, does anyone want to speak against that?
Can I just speak?
Yes?
I just want to acknowledge and thank the council officers for significant amount of time and work and professional effort that they've gone into preparing this planning scheme. I recognise that it's a complex and demanding process, and I honestly appreciate the work undertaken, but I still would like to read the submissions at some stage, please. I think.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, that is currently the subject of a council request, so that's being worked out through the
I
organisation.
just would like to read and just something I would like to do if that is possible, please.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wantling. Anyone speaking against? Anyone else speaking for? Councillor Farley?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Whilst I may have voted in the negative for item 17, this is a process we go through, so you support it. It's what we do. We received the report and all the steps there are in line with the procedure we would follow in getting a planning scheme adopted by the next level of government, and I hope they give it the due scrutiny that it deserves given all the hard work that went into it. So I believe it's the next step, and I know it's a very arduous process because this is my second one, and they're never easy. They're never easy. So anyhow, it's the next important step in what we do.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Councillor Haslett?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, big day, I think. It's been a long time in the putting together this. As a first-time councillor, I have learned just so much through the whole process on so many things. Thank you, Di, for making planning so exciting, really, which you continue to try and do. I just looking at the table that we were given there with all the very small print. Something that stood out for me, and this kind of point goes to Councillor Richter's amendment, which I actually agree with in principle. I just don't necessarily think it needs to be an amendment in the minutes. But looking at it, there are a lot of submissions, or there appear to be a lot of submissions in there that do relate to rural land use, or probably more correctly, I would say even non-urban land use, because there's quite a lot that deal with industrial land use as well, which is different to rural land, but is non-urban, I suppose, if the terminology is correct. So I actually do support that. I think we need to absolutely, as a council, get cracking on our rural land strategy or a non-urban land strategy. There would be some questions that I think need to be looked at around timing and when it comes back from the state, which is why I don't necessarily support it being put in as an amendment there. But I do support Councillor Richter's idea that is something that I think needs to become a very important priority for this council, because there are obviously some significant issues to discuss in that space for this region, and I think it will be difficult for us to continue to move forward economically as a region until we look at that and come up with a nice clear strategy on that.
Yep, the staff will come back on timing on the rural land strategy, because I agree. The only reason I didn't second it is not having the staff's input on timing and budget implications and things like that. So they can come back to us on a CIS on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Richters, would you like to speak?
Well, had the question been asked, Mayor, I think that you would have found out maybe that staff have every intention of working on this even faster than what my amendment had proposed. So I'm disappointed that it wasn't supported. The rural land strategy is something that is going to be so critically important to farmers and many rural landholders across our region. There's so many open-ended questions remaining, and things about how we can further develop the necessary housing for our region whilst protecting the right of farming land. That's a question mark that's still now left open-ended. So I don't think there needs to be much more said about this particular step of the process. All we're doing is sending it to the state government. I'm sure we'll have more to say about it when it actually comes back to be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Deane, did you want to speak to the motion?
With just the motion, not necessarily the.
Yeah, motion.
So I wanted to commend the staff. This draft planning scheme has been a massive body of work undertaken by council staff, and I want to begin by sincerely thanking everyone involved. The time, care and effort taken to bring submissions back to councillors for investigation and consideration has been exceptional. This process has been a genuine collaboration between staff, councillors and the community, and I think this deserves recognition. Like many of our fellow councillors, I'm very happy to see this planning scheme reaching its final stages, and one of the most important aspects I want to highlight is the value of community consultation phase. One example I would like to highlight is the heritage overlay in rural zone had a significant amount of feedback and concern from community. And we listened to the feedback and made appropriate amendments to our conditions. That outcome demonstrates exactly why robust community consultation is so important, and I believe this process has shown that we have done that well. Finally, I would like to highlight that this draft planning scheme delivers meaningful improvements across several key areas. It supports livable communities and better housing outcomes, encourages sustainable economic growth, and strengthens our approach to safety, resilience, and hazard management. Taken together, these improvements position our region well for the future. I commend everyone involved in bringing this important work to completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deane. I'll also speak to the motion. A planning scheme, I think, is definitely a matter of not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. None of us around this table will agree with every single issue in a very large document that is a new planning scheme. I, for example, have consistently spoken against reducing rural setbacks, but I acknowledge the decision of a majority of councillors, and that does not stop me supporting the scheme as a whole. This region needs a new planning scheme because we have many opportunities that we need to be able to capitalise on, and we also have to address the challenges that come with rapid growth. We need a more user-friendly set of planning instruments and a contemporary fit-for-purpose scheme that will better allow us to respond to growth over the next 20 years. Work on the new planning scheme was started in 2021, and it has been 5 years of work to develop a response to current and predicted growth that preserves the region's character and quality of life. Our region is growing faster than the Queensland average, and that interest will only increase. The bolder approach to secondary dwellings or granny flats, where planning approval will not be needed to build in all residential and rural zones where the dwelling is less than 120 square metres, could provide the opportunity for many additional homes to be built across the region with less red tape. With almost 8,000 people visiting our engagement platform, nearly 900 people engaged during face-to-face consultations, and almost 300 submissions received, we have listened to extensive community, business and industry feedback to develop a planning scheme characterised by affordable housing options, less regulation, more streamlined development pathways and appropriately zoned land across the region. It increases the availability of low density and medium density residential land in the right locations while protecting the character of our towns, villages and rural areas. It reduces minimum lot sizes in low density and medium density residential zones to make lots more affordable, and it expands the ability to subdivide land across our towns and villages. We have listened carefully to the community and changed many items that were included in the first draft of the scheme from 2021. In particular, properties adjoining a heritage listed property will not be included in the heritage overlay, and I agreed wholeheartedly with the submissions that this should be changed. There were some matters too where I agree with the community submissions, but where we can't amend this draft scheme under the state planning process. I agree that we need more residential and industrial land to support our current growth, and we will take this issue forward to address in early amendments to the new scheme. While we did hear the community's concerns about the biodiversity overlay, this is a state map and the state government required us to include this in our scheme. We have passed the community feedback on to the state member and the department in the briefing process. Planning schemes are living documents needing continual updates to meet the needs of evolving communities, and the Southern Downs has outgrown the provisions in the previous scheme. Like those around this table, I would also like to thank all of the staff for their very hard work. It has been an enormous year moving the draft scheme from coming out from the state government and getting it to the position that it is in now. And I sincerely thank all of you for your work and for all of the community who were so enthusiastically involved in the consultation process. Did you want to write a reply at all, Deputy Mayor?
I think we've covered it nicely, thank you.
Okay, going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Can someone let councillors McDonald and Pidgeon know?
Councillor McDonald's just.
She's in a hurry.
What?
She's my heart.
I moved on in your absence.
That's okay. Did we let her, she's aware though that we.
Oh, she's only just gone in.
No, I don't want to hurry her, I just want her to know that we're.
Did we talk now?
You plugged it in, but you didn't turn it on. You in the That works. I know. We're adjourned for always, we can't continue without Councillor McDonald.
Well, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Same to you, Russell.
Are you going to use your cracker, Russell?
Yeah.
Okay, councillors. We have no general business today. I would like to close
Excuse me, Mayor.
today's.
I move to suspend standing orders in order to move a motion that's not in business regarding to blood collection and downs.
Procedural motion to suspend standing orders. Those in favour? Councillor Rickers, Councillor
Can you
Deane.
just repeat what it was for?
In regards to blood collection in Southern Downs.
Through Red Cross.
Those in favour were, Deane and Richters. Those against? Councillors Pidgeon, Haslett, Watling, Bartley, McDonald.
Could we have an explanation?
No, sorry, I'm closing the meeting. I will wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. I would like to thank all of the staff of Southern Downs Regional Council for all of their work throughout the year, and I would like to thank all councillors for your commitment in 2025, and the meeting is closed at 12:10.